Hello again, this is Sean at Edge FPV. We're going to get into this reverb now and get all the components set up and going on this. I'll let you know exactly what I'm putting on here. And to start off with the receiver, I'm using an X4R SB for this particular one. This is the one I usually use on most of my components. The reverb was kind of a special thing. I wanted to try the RXXR to see how it worked, and it works pretty good, but I've just used these for so long. But I did get the one that was unpinned, and I did actually remove this one as well too, just unpinned that as well, and basically got it already all set up to match the snakeskin that I have for the quad skin, and nothing too special. It just makes it a lot flatter, a lot easier, and a lot nicer to use that way. I've already bound this one, so it should be ready to go. I'll just have to put it in and wire it up. I did go with the KISS version 2 flight controller. I want to give it a shot and see how it is. Everybody seems to like it now with the newer updates, so it should be a good one. I have two other KISS builds. They're all version 1s. I've had no problems with them at all, so I enjoy them. They fly well, good power output and everything. And I went with the 32 amp ESCs. Again, in my other builds are the 24 amp ones, so this is all going to be kind of new to me as well too, but they're not really that much different from what I can see. I mean, the build itself, a lot more components and stuff on the boards themselves, but for the most part they're pretty much the same, the way they're set up and everything. And on this build I am going with the Predator, Foxy Ear Predator cam. We'll give that a shot. Never went with anything else other than run cam usually, so kind of excited to see how this one works as well too. But yeah, it should be a good one too. Heard some good things about it, so I'm curious on how much different it is. But I'll let you know once we get it up in the air and everything. On this particular one, I'm going with the Lumineer Pagoda 2. It's kind of an older series antenna. It doesn't have the guard and stuff on it or anything, but kind of went with a matching one is what I was looking for. Wanted it to be pretty close to what the build looks like and stuff, so kind of a bad reason for choosing this one, but I've tried it before on some of my other quads, and I actually do like it. It works pretty well. I just always worry about hitting something with these and breaking it, because once you break it, it's done. So, and then of course, like I said before, I always go with the Tramp HV for the video transmitter. Been a good unit, so I'm excited to get that set up on here too. And I'll be using the TNR wand as well too. So, and on this particular one, I'm going to use the 1000 microfarad capacitor, 35 volt. So it should be more than enough to clean up the video. That's pretty much all I use these for. I haven't really seen a whole lot of difference in the ones that I have put it on. It just kind of cleans up my video a little bit better than normal. And underneath the ESCs, I do actually use this Lumineer neoprene pad. That stuff works pretty good. It's fairly cheap to buy, so, but it works pretty well. So, and of course the two straps that came with the frame, and that's about all that goes on to this. So I have already done two of the ESCs, so you can kind of see what the build portion is going to look like. I'll go through exactly how it's set up. When I measure these things out, what I'll usually do is I'll just take one ESC and I just kind of, there's a lip right there that I can put on the reverb frame, and just kind of hits against that. And so once I get that set to the point where I like it, because I want good spacing here so I can have some good wires there, and just a little bit here. I always go just a little tight on my wires. A lot of people will put a bend and stuff in it. You can do that. I don't see any problem with that either, but I haven't really run into any issues with it being straight like this either, because I do slope it down, and I do kind of slope it down and then back up, so there's a little bit of slack there, but I haven't had too many prop hits or anything on it at this point in time yet. If I do, then I might make some extension leads on there if I need to. Of course, if I have that bad of a crash, that motor's probably gone anyway. So the flight controller, it's going to be oriented in the correct direction. Nothing fancy there, but once I get these in here, I am using 14 gauge wire for the power leads, just because it's a 32 amp ESC. I figured the bigger wire might actually help a little bit. And then I'm using 26 gauge wire for the signal wires and stuff to each one of those as well too. This might be a little excessive for that part of it, but that's just what I use. And I went with all black just to kind of keep it uniformed. I wouldn't recommend this on normal builds and stuff, but with the soldering points that you have here, it's basically lined up exactly with what you got here. So there's not really too many ways to get this confused. You just go from line to line, and that's about it on those. So it should make for a very clean looking build. I'm trying to go snake skin on all of it. I'll get all this done up with that sheathing as well. I got several different types. I mean, it's the same kind, same brand, everything else, just kind of matches well with it, and it'll just kind of look good. So this is kind of more for aesthetics than it is anything, but I think it looks pretty good when it's done. So I'll go ahead and get these ESCs soldered up and get everything lined up on this part of it. I'll show you how I'm going to mount the transmitter and everything to the top of here, along with the TNR sensor as well. Haven't really decided where I'm going to put that. Maybe here. So we'll see. But yeah, you just kind of want to fiddle around with it, see where you actually want this stuff. I mean, you don't have to go as far back with the ESCs as I do, and I just don't like to hit that metal piece there. I'd like to have some wires going, covered wires going over the top of that, so it doesn't bother it any. Other than that, I mean, I do use some clear shrink wrap on the first part of it here. Just, it's a little bit of waterproofing, and also it's making it so it's not touching that screw as well either. But there's a couple different ways that you can do this. On my other ones and stuff, I do go full clear all the way up to here, but this stuff is see-through enough. I should be able to still see the LED when it lights up to see if it's on or not. Other than that, it will protect it a little bit from a prop strike, just depending on how it hits on the angle. So I'm not too worried about that part of it. If anything, it's just going to rip this stuff, and the ESC should be fine underneath it. The setup going from here to here, that is a little tricky. You do have to heat shrink it to the motor section underneath here, which it's not deterring it any. Like, it's not touching it, it's not rubbing on it or anything like that. But to get that section in there, you have to do that, and then the heat shrink for this portion has to be set back here while I solder this part up, and then slide that over and put it on. I might go through one motor doing that the way that I do it, just so you can kind of match it if you wanted to. Again, that stuff isn't necessary to have on there, but it matches the frame, makes it look pretty neat, pretty nice. So I'm excited to see what it looks like when it's all done with all that. But I will be using that sheathing on almost all the wires for it. So we'll go from there, and I'll get at least one more of these set up, and then I'll show you how I get that done as well. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. I know there's different techniques and stuff that other people use as well, but basically this is the way I do it. I do have two different sizes of the meshing stuff. The larger for the ESC to fit around that. The smaller to go around the motor wires themselves. And I want to say that this is 1/4 inch stuff, and this is like 1/2 inch stuff, and I do actually get them from WireCare. There's several different companies that sell this stuff. I'm not sure about the snakeskin color. I think that might be exclusive to WireCare, but if you go to wirecare.com you should be able to get this stuff. But first of all, I just go ahead and slip this over the top of the motor wires themselves, just like that. And once I get that, then I have 3 different sizes of heat shrink, 2 of the black, 1 of the clear for this. And so this one's going to go on first. This one has to be on there but not heat shrunk yet. And then this will go on the back side of the closest to the PDB board. So I just go ahead and slip, the meshing over the top there, and then I slip this over the top of that, and I go about halfway from the original heat shrink on here, and then I just kind of try to hold it in place, slide this down the rest of the way as far as you possibly can, just like that. So once it's down like that, you can see I have very limited wire amount on the end there, but then I go ahead and heat shrink that part of it down. And I actually use a small torch device that does the heat out of the end. It's just like a heat gun. It's just a lot smaller and a lot more concentrated area, so I don't hurt my motors or my windings. And just kind of go around all the way. Try not to hit the meshing at all, because it will kind of melt a little bit if you don't watch it, just like it did there. So I might have to do that again. But basically that's how you do that portion of it, and you can see that it's pretty tight on the inside here, and it's not going to come off that way. Okay, got my new piece cut. As you can see, that is very easy to mess up, so it's always nice to buy a little bit of extra just in case if you can. Again, I'm going to go about halfway on that, hold it, slide it back down as far as I can, just like that. Now let's see if I can get this done the right way again without burning it this time. So even with this concentrated stream and stuff, it's a pretty small stream. It's just as hot as a normal heat gun, but it is definitely easy to burn your stuff on here if you don't watch it. So maybe just start with the bottom, kind of come across like that on the top. Damn, that's hot. across there. Alright, that should be good enough on that part of it. Now I always do squeeze it just a little bit, but as you can see after I get done, there's no restriction to the motor itself. So that's what you want to make sure of, that it's not touching anything on there. It is going to come up a little bit when it does that, but I still have no restrictions. It's hitting against the coils instead of the rest of it. Never really had any problems with this doing it like that. And I still have close enough separation here that I can solder it onto the ESC itself. So once I get that part of it done, I go ahead and slide my next piece on over the top of that and just kind of hold it down in here. Just kind of slide it up underneath the motor there so it doesn't move on you while you're soldering. So now I will go ahead and get this crimped off, and we'll solder it to the board here, and I'll show you the rest of the steps here. Okay, I'll show you a little bit of my soldering here, just because I haven't shown it yet or anything. It's not that impressive or anything like that, but yeah, it just going to the ESCs, you know, I just tend to go as quick as you possibly can and just make sure that it solders in, melts the rest of the solder all the way, and gets it in there. There's one. Not sure how well you can see this or not. This is part of the reason why I don't show too much of my soldering, because it does take me a while. I do take my sweet time getting it done, but I also try to make sure that I get a good solder connection here. That's it. So solder to the ESC. Kind of bend that one back in just a little bit. That's basically what my solder joints look like. So like I said, nothing special, nothing fancy, but it works good for me. So once I get those to that point like that, then I can go ahead and slide the larger piece over the top of it. And these open up quite wide on the 1/2 inch stuff here. Once I get that up and over like that, then you can basically just kind of crimp this side of it down like that. Slide this piece over the top of the extra. So we'll go ahead and slide this down just a little bit more. And just kind of pinch that down to the side and slide that up. Once you get it over the top of every piece of it there, just try to basically move it up as far as you possibly can, just like that. So then it's ready to heat shrink onto that portion of it there. So it's just my technique of it. I still got to solder the other 2 wires onto here, or sorry, 5 wires onto there. So I will go ahead and actually slide this back, pull that off, and then I'll solder my joints onto here, and I should be able to slip this over the top. I might actually have to shorten this up just a tiny bit, but as you can see, as it widens out, it gets shorter. So, you know, you want to cut it just a little bit longer than what you want. So when you do slide it over, you know, you get your full range and full function of it coming off the end here. So I try to match them up the best I can. I want it to basically come about that far over the top of it. That way it kind of hides the end of it here. The LED should show through this pretty well. I don't know if I can show you this or not, but it's actually pretty transparent. So any LEDs and stuff that are going to show through here, you should be able to see pretty easily. But for the most part, when it's all bound up and stuff, it should look like that and kind of be concealed inside of it there. So there's my clear heat shrink, my shorter piece, and my other piece. I got the other three done. On these particular two here and here, I did do the little tab on here for the reverse rotation. So I'm not sure if you can see that or not. It's just two little tabs right there that you have to join together to reverse the rotation on it, and then you got your other three telemetry ground and signal wires there. But yeah, that's so those two are done with that bridge, and then this one and the other one is not done with the bridge. That way I don't have to do it in the software. Worst case scenario, you know, this is the way it's supposed to be. I look at it as most of these motors run clockwise. So if it's gonna work on here, then the other two should be counterclockwise, and we'll see if it works. If not, worst case scenario, like I was saying, is that I'll have to change the rotation on all four motors. But hopefully I'm right, and we'll get it set up like that. If not, then at least you guys will know how you want to set it up. So it might be these two that you have to reverse, or these two, but right now I have these two motors reversed. So, and then this one is standard clockwise, I'm hoping, and this one is clockwise as well. So once we get it up there and soldered onto the joint, we should be able to get the flight controller fired up, and then we'll know for sure by then. So anyway, I will go ahead and solder my other wires onto the ends of this, and we'll go from there. Okay, the next thing you want to do after you get the wires soldered on is you want to kind of just line this up the best you can, and then cut the wires to length. I just use a small pair of snips here, and basically just go straight to the outside of it here. I don't know how much of this you'll see, but I will try to stay out of the way the best I can. Just like I said, just kind of line it up with what's on the PDB board itself, and then snip it right to the end of it. You know, like that one. I didn't really cut off a whole lot. And then the next one, just kind of bring it up like that. Snips. Next one is a little longer. Sometimes you kind of have to hold it down as you cut it. And then the very next one. I want to go straight to the end of this so they don't actually touch when you get them soldered together. just like that, and the larger one right after that. And I do have the motor actually screwed down to here, so I know my length on here, and I do it kind of loose, but not super loose. Just like that. So those are all prepared now. They're all cut to length for what I want, and then I can just go ahead and take off the motor itself. And if I didn't mention before, I did go with the Hype Train Ladrib motors, the 2650s. So it should be a pretty fast motor all around. I'm pretty excited to try to use these. Never really gone anything over a 2450, so 2650 should be pretty hopped up. So it'll be interesting to see how it runs. Alright, and then after that, once I get that section of it done, then, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and cut this off just a tiny bit more. It was just a little long when I looked the last time. And this stuff gets extremely messy when you cut it like that. But so that section's ready. And I can go ahead and just slide it over the wires here. Slide it back down into place, like so, and that is exactly where I want it. So I can slide my heat shrink that I have already set up on there. Just kind of slide it over the end of that piece. Try to pinch it down and get every strand you possibly can inside of that. So once you get it in there, everything should slide up pretty nice and easy. They are a pain in the butt to do though, I will say that. So this is something you want to do if you really want your quad to look good. But yeah, it doesn't make it super easy to work on after you get it like this, but I don't have too many crashes usually. Mainly because I don't do stuff that's not past my skill level. I'll practice it high up in the air before I actually do the actual move in between trees and poles and everything else. So yeah, it's not an easy process. This does take me a while to get this done correctly, but once you get it done, it does look pretty good. Sorry for the clearing of my throat so much. I've been a little bit sick. That's what happens when you work so much. Alright. So I'll get one more strand right there. So I can get it in there. Okay, once you get those set up in there like that, and you want to just suck that thing up as far up there as you possibly can. And you can see it just kind of tightens up around the end of it there. It should look pretty good. I got one strand left here. It's just not wanting to cooperate. There we go. And then I'll just kind of cinch it up there as tight as I possibly can, like that. And then I will go ahead and take my heat gun again. Turn this one up just a little bit more. And this is a little bit dangerous to do it this way, but I find it the best way to do it. Just kind of hold your fingers as close as you can, get started on that part of it, then you can move your fingers away and get it the rest of the way. But try to keep the tip, if you're using one this small, try to keep the tip of it as far away from the meshing part of it as you possibly can, because it will melt through it very quickly. Once you get through there a couple times like that, it just takes a couple swipes. Just kind of push it down if you can handle the heat, because I do get a little bit of glue on my fingers when I do that. But there you go, that's it on that part of it. So once I get done with that part of it, now I can take my third piece of the heat shrink, wherever it went. There it is. Okay, and then just slide it over the end here and over the meshing itself. This one we're going to go all the way over the top of it. Once we slide it in there, and we just go ahead and slide it down the rest of the way as far as you can. I mean as far as you can. If you can get it past the meshing stuff itself, that's what you want to do, just like that. See, now it slides pretty easy. And I can also get it down there all the way like that, so I can still get it soldered up well. So now I'll solder these to the PDB board itself and then slide it back up and I will heat shrink it from there. Okay, after I get it soldered up, I always go ahead and check for continuity to make sure that I got my wiring correctly. So it's going to beep at me if I got something wrong here. So that is the negative post, so that's fine. No interference anywhere else on the three little wires, which is good. No continuity between anything else. I am going to check from negative to here to negative on this one, which I do have continuity. That's good. Check continuity from positive to positive. That's good. Just one more just to check. And we are good to go. Yep, everything tests good, so now I can go ahead and slide this back up where I want it. I'll just kind of lift this up a little bit like this. Slide it down right where I want it, which is about right there. Just so you can kind of see, it's about how far I go on these. That way when I shrink it down, it's going to come back just a tiny bit and it should work pretty well. So, and again, I use my directional torch here. Sorry that's so loud. And I'll turn it up just a tiny bit. Get the top part going. It's starting to shrink there. And I'll go up underneath here. Do the same thing. Doesn't take very much with this. This thing gets about 1200 degrees, so I don't know how many Celsius that is, but It's a lot. So you kind of want to keep it away from your solder joints as well too, because it will melt those up pretty good too. And then I go ahead and just kind of press that down, just like that. It is hot. And that is done. That one is ready to bolt on and ready to go. So that's all 4 ESCs and motors wired up, ready to go. That's with the 32 amp ESCs all the way around. If you notice here, I did put the capacitor on this side through the zip tie area, similar to what this one is. So it made a perfect spot for that. That thing isn't moving at all. Should work just the same there as it does over on this side. I've done this a couple times on a couple other quads and it seems to work just fine. Mainly I just use the capacitors just to kind of clean up the video, so I don't lose anything off there. Never really had any problems with amps going in or out. I've just had a little bit of static and stuff from voltage and stuff, so mainly this is for my video more than anything. But anyway, we'll get the rest of this soldered up. If you do notice, I did get the camera wires and everything wired up the way I wanted it to, with the meshing on it as well. I think it turned out pretty good. It's just kind of a different look to it, but yeah, each wire goes to two, different things. This is my power leads and my VBAT wire. This will be my signal wire to the actual video transmitter, so I can change channels. And this one I did up on here so I can change the settings and stuff in the camera itself. So it turned out pretty good. I think it'll look pretty nice. It all matches pretty well. A little worried about running this out in the desert. I might not see it when I crash it, so I might even end up putting a GPS tracker on this one. But anyway, we'll get this motor bolted up and then we'll do the flight controller next. Okay, I think I got everything soldered up on here. I'll just kind of give you a close angle view of exactly where I soldered stuff. So we got our video controller here on TX5, and that's what most of the KISS formats show on here. I also have your receiver controllers set up there, so you got your S port, your power, and your ground underneath the white there, and then the white is going to the smart port there. So now I should be able to change video channels, change my PIDs and everything else through those cables as well too. So I do have my video receiver, my radio receiver here. I think that turned out pretty good, kind of blends in pretty well. And then my two antennas coming out just barely from underneath the board here for the receiver as well too. So all my camera wires and everything, this is the only port I have to unplug to undo the top plate, which I set up like this. So I just kind of coiled this around for the TNR sensor, and I should be able to swipe that and change the channels through that as well too. And of course the video receiver there with two zip ties on the back of the antenna there. So that turned out pretty good, and I can just pop that off, unplug one connection from here, and then the whole top plate comes off. So I did cut the tubes down. They are about, I cut about roughly 5 millimeters, maybe just a tiny bit more than 5 millimeters off, and that seemed to be perfect. The antennas are not sticking out of the end of it, so that should work out pretty well as well too. So, but that's one other thing here, the camera. Let's see if I can show you here. So I decided to do the camera plug right there. So it's plugged into the positive and negative on the PDB board itself, so I should be getting direct power from the LiPo itself. And yeah, that's really all there is to solder onto this board. I can't really think of anything else. I mean, once you get your ESCs all soldered up on each end, then you just got the main power there, your receiver there, your controller for the video there, and then this is powered off of this as well too. So basically we got power to the camera as well as the video transmitter, and the receiver, it has power right in there. So that's basically everything soldered up on this thing, ready to go. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the top plate on. I'll connect the flight controller to just make sure I'm up to the current version, which right now I think is 1.3 RC32, I think is the newest one for the version 2. And I'll have to update the ESCs as well too, but I'll show you when I plug into this. In fact, I will go ahead and do a continuity test on this as well too, make sure I don't have any grounds before I plug it in, and we should be ready to rip on this one. So it turned out to be a pretty good looking build. You know, like I was saying before, these covers and stuff are a little bit overboard as far as most people think. Doesn't really add that much more weight to it or anything. I will weigh it out at the end of this as well too, but I just think it matches and uniforms quite well. So if you look at the bottom section, it pretty much all matches up with everything on it. So you know, thank you again, Jeff Goss, for the stick-it skins. That pattern, that's exactly what I was looking for. That looks awesome. So again, I got the Rotor Riot pads on the motors here, so I don't have to have any of the pads here, and it sits up plenty far enough that it doesn't hit any of the bolts on this section as well either. So again, pretty good build. I'm quite happy with it. Can't wait to fly it. With the 2650s, that should be a pretty quick build, pretty fast build. So I'll go ahead and get that stuff set up, and then we'll plug it in and see if she works. See if we get any white smoke. Okay, I have already tested this, but let's just go ahead and show you that everything checks out okay. And touching it for the first time, that is normal, especially with the capacitor on there. If I switch the leads, it's going to beep again. That goes away. So I think we are good to go on that part of it. So I did check the version on the GUI, and it is the 32EE. So I think we are good to go to plug it in. So give me just a second and I will get a battery and we'll plug this thing in and see if it smokes up or not. I always get nervous during this part. Again, you should probably use a smoke stopper, but I kind of trust my work a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and plug it in and we'll see if it smokes or not. So here we go. Don't see any smoke, don't smell anything. I think we are good to go. So as you can see each light on the ESCs through the webbing itself. So all the LEDs are lit up on it. I don't have my transmitter on, so that's that red flashing light that you see there. But yeah, I think we're good to go on this thing. So we'll just go ahead and get this set up the rest of the way. It was kind of an odd audio thing. I've never heard that from the motors before, so definitely odd. So I did put the little controller lead right here for the camera itself, so I can do some video tuning on it if I need to. set up the on-screen display, since this PDB board does not have that. Thought about putting the Mr. Steel board on there, but it just does not fit this reverb at all. So went with the original one. The on-screen display on the actual camera itself should be plenty enough. I just need to know what my voltage is really. So, and it should tell me that portion of it. And I do always like to put my name in it as well too, just so I know, you know, what channel I'm on. If I'm flying with other people and I happen to flip over to one of their channels, I'll know if it's me or not. So, but yeah, turned out to be a pretty good build. So can't wait to fly this one as well too. I might, the way the weather's been and stuff, I might end up flying both of these for their maidens on the same day, the reverb and the remix as well. So it's been snowing here, it's been cold, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I will try to get these up in the air so you can get some flight footage on these, and I'll have some camera footage as well too on the same video, so hopefully you'll be able to see the whole thing. So anyway, I'll get this done and we'll go through the setup process after this. Alright, we got the reverb here. It's been snowing a little bit here, so I'm going to do a first time test hover on here. Let's see if it works. Hopefully it doesn't fly off into space, but I don't think it will. I haven't really done anything with the tuning or anything like that. All I've done is just update the firmware to the KISS version 2, and the ESCs, updated the firmware on there. I am set on D-Shot 2400, which probably won't make any difference with the settings that I got, because I'm just going to be doing a couple punch outs and just hovering it around, make sure it works. So let's go ahead and get this done. Alright, here we go.
Oh yeah, that was the right switch.
Alright, looks like it's working. I'd say the oh my god definitely has more of a punch out than this does, but still not bad. Like I said, I haven't really done anything with the tuning or anything, so didn't expect a whole lot from it yet. Maybe after I get my PIDs set and my minimum throttle and all that, it'll probably be a pretty good punch out. Probably this isn't the hottest battery either to be using. It's a tattoo that I've had charged for a while, but very, very smooth though. I like the look of it too. It's good. A little bit of a balancing problem. It's trying to correct itself to the left a little bit. And I let off the throttle. And I don't think air mode's on all the way either. Yeah, if I don't go back all the way on the throttle, it's pretty good. So I just don't have it set up for full air mode yet. It is a little windy out here. Yeah, it's trying to snow again too. It's a little harder to control. Yeah, unfortunately I'm not going to be able to do final maiden for a while. That is definitely pushing it once I get up there in the air. Wow, that wind is really pushing it. Part though, pretty steady. Alright, I'm staying before it gets too windy. Alright, flew pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. So I think we'll keep going with this, and I'll get my tuning set up and everything else. I'll probably show you in the next video what I do exactly on that part of it to get the air mode working correctly so I can go full non-throttle, and yeah, we'll go from there. Wow, I almost forgot. I told you guys I was going to show you the weight on this thing when it's all ready to fly. So with the GoPro, a Adrenaline 100C battery, and all the props, everything's on there. It's just not plugged in. So we'll weigh it up and see. Looks like it's about 649 grams. So yeah, it's a little bit heavier frame, but that's what you want in freestyle frame. So it's going to be pretty good. And I didn't realize when I was flying that these are actually the ones from Quad Box. So they're the 5040s, so that might have been why it didn't have as much thrust as I thought it was going to have. So I think if I get a 5043 or 5045 or anything like that, it should punch out pretty good. So we'll just have to see. I'll experiment with it, but I like the color of these blades with the snakeskin, so that works for me. Anyway, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.